Hey, welcome to Table Tennis Philosophy. You might be surprised to find out that table tennis is an extremely violent sport. Not really, it's not that violent, but I have had to break up a couple fights in my table tennis life. I've witnessed some altercations, and let me say right from the start, I don't condone violence. I'm a very peace-loving person. But when you play, you need to probably, if you're looking at this as some of us grew up with, it's a friendly game of ping pong, and that's the way you approach it with you might be approaching competition with a bit of a lack of intensity. And some people do that. And I think the proper way to compete is to consider it a battle for sure. And I think one of the reasons we don't look at it that way is because it's unlikely you're going to really get hurt playing table tennis. You might get your feelings hurt, but you're probably not going to physically be harmed. But there's a lot of things in table tennis that are very close to battle-like situations. One of my sons used to do fencing, and fencing is basically training for battle, old sport of a little bit of sword fighting. If you ever do any fencing, you'll find out that it's extremely good for footwork, and it's the same type of footwork, or roughly the same type of footwork that you would use in table tennis. And if more table tennis players took up fencing a little bit, they'd probably find that it actually helps their footwork quite a bit. It would be a great footwork exercise. One of the other sports that you could compare table tennis to is boxing. And if you were as concerned about somebody scoring a point against you as you were somebody actually hitting you, you might have a little more intensity when you're playing as well. And that's the kind of thing you have to think about. And I would go so far as to say that you can compare table tennis in a sense to shooting a gun, maybe bow and arrow. There's a certain amount of when you hit the ball, when you make a stroke, that some people actually call that shooting. And one of the problems with a lot of table tennis players, and I had considered doing a whole video on this, is about shooting without aiming. And you're not going to be very successful in a gunfight with that attitude, and you won't be successful in table tennis either. And that's what happens, though. A lot of times people are just like, I'm going to hit it hard, and it may or may not hit the table. But the better players are taking aim and shooting or placing the ball in exactly the place they want it to be. And that's a big difference than just firing wildly. So maybe you don't think of table tennis as violent, but let me leave you with one more story. In a tournament one time, I had a situation where I was lined up to play I believe I was the A player in a group, and I was going to play the B player last. He was going to be my toughest competition, and we struck up a conversation, and he was extremely friendly. You couldn't help but like this guy until we got to the table, and he turned into a different person. He was so intense and was going after me so hard that I was just taken aback. I was caught off guard. I didn't recover, and I didn't win the match. And apparently he had the ability to turn it on and off, be the friendliest person in the world 1 second and be the most intense, competitive person the next. And I was not really thinking in those terms, but it was a good lesson to learn. And so you really have to up your intensity to compete well. It's great to be friendly, and there's no reason to be angry or unpleasant with your competition, but you do have to be intense, and you have to be able to turn that on, and maybe think of this sport a little bit more violently than you ever would. All right, that's a thought for you. All right, see you next time. Thanks.